All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of The Left Curve. Today we have Grant from the Blockmates team. And today we are going to be talking to Grant about Layer Zero, Sybil techniques, the friend airdrop, and the ongoing meme coin mania. Now, before we start, of course, none of what we say is financial advice. We just people on the internet. Please do your own research before you ape into anything. So, Grant, would you like to introduce yourself to our guests?
Yeah, thanks for having us as well, gents. I'm Grant. I'm the founder, CEO, and intern of Blockmates. We are a crypto native media company that is didn't take ourselves too seriously, but then when you dig into the research and the articles and the video content that we produce, we like to think that we don't skip any details. Well, I think that's high level what we do. Participate in markets all day, every day as well. Sometimes don't get anything done because of it, but I think that's a brief intro on me.
I think that's pretty much all of us. Blingo, you want to go next?
Yeah. Hi guys, my name is Lingo. I'm the co-founder and COO at Airdrop. Something very funny that Grant said. I also write like intern in my bio. So currently like intern of like many protocols we're working with, but I primarily help the team on strat and execution. So a lot of crazy ideas come from my side, and I'm just trying to not get cancelled. So yeah, I'll get cancelled by my team first and maybe then by people outside. But yeah, that's pretty much about me.
Hi guys, my name is Adonis. I'm the CEO at Block, and Blingo's absolutely right. Someday he's gonna be cancelled by me because he comes up with like really really cool ideas. I have to somehow implement them and see them to fruition. But yeah, I think it's really important to have like both sides of the equation, a little bit of memes and a little bit of dreams. But yeah, man. So recently we have had the Layer Zero snapshot announcement, and just then they released the Sybil report as well that they're going to be practically taking a very nuanced approach, a very new approach, I would say, right? And I'm really curious to know, Grant, if you think that the way Layer Zero is filtering out Sybils, like basically they're tracking on-chain activities, they have like their whole DevRel team behind it as well. Do you think this changes how we are going to see airdrops happening in the future for like a lot of different protocols?
Yeah, I think it is a. I think the wider industry is kind of sick and tired of being farmed themselves, and I think this might be one of those kind of catalysts from the layer zero side that kind of like flips this whole meta on its head. And I think something you always get like these like markets don't bounce until there's like a capitulation event, right? And this is like that the example of this happening to airdrops and endpoints. And I think it's been Sybil to absolute death. I know people like anecdotally people that will not will not be named that they have many wallets that have been using Stargate and interacting with random proxy contracts on layer zero and stuff like that for an extremely long time. This whole idea of snitch to earn is quite good. It's quite funny. I think someone else tried it before, but what I think is really interesting about this is like Brian and the team from Layer Zero have got so much credit in the bank reputational wise, and people have so much kind of respect for those guys. They can kind of pull this angle off, whereas the likes of a Starknet team, if they said this, they'd get killed.
Yeah.
And I think that's you have to have a lot of credit in the bank to be able to pull something as kind of left field as this off, I think personally.
I
Yeah, and
actually
I
agree.
think I think it kind of makes sense, right? Why they took like such a bold move, because they understood that they have this kind of authority in the ecosystem. They've actually built that reputation to actually structure themselves in a way that, hey, we want to do something which has like been tried before, not been successful. But yeah, I think kudos to the team, because I think we're seeing like every cycle there's like few things that determine how the market would start moving forward, right? So friend.tech brought like this crazy influence of how we're looking at social fi in like web3. Then whole points mania came around before the meme coins, like, and then the points mania crashed again, that hey, enough of these points, like these 3 months were like full of points. So I think now it's good to see like how this Sybil production arc would play out moving forward. But I think it has been super interesting, and I was like super psyched by it. I was just like sharing it everywhere. That hey, did you guys check this out? Did you guys read this? I think this is so cool. Like, at least in this market, when there's like the market turning down or going sideways, I was like, it felt refreshing to see something new. So I was like, okay, I don't want to look at my bags right now. So yeah, I think it was super interesting.
I would also say that because they're such a big team, it's something so crazy that only a team that big can have pulled off. And they did pull it off. And not only did they pull it off, they actually thought it through really, really carefully. Because if you look at how it's structured, it's not that, if you were a Sybil, that you are damned to hell. You can self report as well and get like 15% of it back. And, given how, both Grant and I know people who farmed it to death, 15% of that is still going to be worth quite a lot if you think about it, right? Um, I just think that a lot of backlash came because in their article, they are like blacklisted like a couple of protocol interactions, Merkley being like the top one of them, because like CC2 is like a very very popular farmer, and he is actually closely associated with Merkley. And then these guys decide that what, we're just gonna blacklist every wallet that has interacted with Merkley. But I was looking into Crack's response, and he said that if you've been flagged as a Sybil, uh, it's not that you would get like umbrella band or anything like that. It's more so that the DevRel community is going to look more deeply into you. At least that was my interpretation of it. I could be wrong on this. But this whole fiasco really broke loose when, CC2 started tweeting about it because, you know, I believe he literally has like he had his rank, like his layer 0 leaderboard rank in his bio for like the longest time. So I think that's where a lot of backlash is coming from.
And I think the question is like, how do teams effectively do it without doing some kind of weird proof of humanity? Or
Yeah.
because you can Sybil proof of work, like what people are doing. Like, what I really like, what's kind of a shift, which kind of happened as soon as the market came back, was looking at kind of ways to incorporate already existing strong communities, whether that be an NFT community, whether that be specific holders of like a staked asset, whether that be um, just basic like kind of operators of specific other dApps in the ecosystem. Like, if it could be a kind of a good way to kind of attract, like, say if you're a perps dex and you, let's hope there isn't that many more perps decks that come online, let's be honest, because there's an awful lot of them, but like, stick with me for the analogy. If you're a perps dex and you're on Optimism, maybe you start looking at who the Evo top users are or the GMX top users are, and then airdrop to those guys, and then you can kind of get just how do you get over this cold start problem without constantly giving out tokens to people who are inevitably just going to be going to Uniswap and just hammering that sell button as soon as they land in the wallet.
And I think
Yeah,
I
go
think
ahead.
just in that case, we've been trying to do a lot of those strategies, right? Like the meme coin mania has like just gotten through us for the third time, I guess, in this cycle, or like second, perhaps. So we've been trying to do some similar strategies on that front, that we're trying to see like how can we acquire users, but at the same time build that sustainable structure, which is like the biggest problem in Web3 right now. That how do I escape the biggest chase of mercenary liquidity or like mercenary farmers, right? So it's been like quite a ride for all of us, but I think I'd like to give like a quick shout out because I see Grant wearing the Harry Potter Obama Sonic Eno t-shirt and I can't just get my eyes off of it. So,
I have
I
the
think,
pants as well, but my wife hid them from me because she said they're horrendous.
see, I think like when we started this podcast, we talked about what could we do potentially, but the idea is to bring forward that culture without the actual jargons, right? Like this is an industry of jargons, I feel. So I would probably give you like a quick shout out, like this is the degeneracy and the culture we want. His pants are hidden, and like this is how passionate we are about merch. So yeah, quick detour from what we were talking about, but yes.
Yeah, and Grant, speaking about people heading to Uniswap and like dumping their bags, we've also had the friend.tech airdrop happen, and that saw like a lot of influencers who were actually utilizing friend.tech, giving out like a lot of calls, but they were like swapping out their bags left, right, and center, and almost to the point that somebody made a tweet about it, and the tweet ran like, "Where are your gods now?" or something along those lines. So, so speaking of that, as somebody who would look at it from the outside, right? Like there are people who might be getting interested in Bitcoin now after calling it a scam for like the last 2 years, but they're probably getting to get back into the industry themselves when they see behavior like this, like really big power users of protocols um, dumping the token as soon as it lands. Where does that mindset come from? So do you have any like message for a newbie who's entering the markets right now? Maybe this is his first cycle. What should he not do? What should he look out for? Because at the end of the day, this podcast is for plebs that we once were. Maybe we still are. So having that kind of access to you allows us to perhaps distribute that message over to a lot of these folks.
Yeah, I mean, what I've been thinking about this quite a lot actually, and particularly with friend tech, where like if you think back to the early days of Twitter, the reason one of the main reasons that people enjoyed Twitter was because where else in the world can you directly interact with the likes of Elon Musk and potentially get a response? And then obviously friends techs drilling down into a huge micro niche CT celebrity kind of landscape. And what I think people fall foul to a lot when they first come into this space, if I can kind of think back to the initial people that I was following, the algorithm rewards people that are technically hyperbolic, have a lot of engagement, whether they're paying for that engagement or they're not paying for that engagement. I'd argue the vast majority of them are. And you tend to see if I go back to my own Twitter account that nobody has access to, that's like my own personal. I haven't probably used it in 5 years. But if I go back on that, I see the same faces posting charts with all this kind of like horoscope TA patterns all over that mean absolutely nothing to anyone. And it drives me absolutely insane. But then like the engagement factor of it is through the roof, right? And I think what people fall foul to is following those kind of people into the kind of positions and the kind of assets that they are talking about and they're tweeting about. And we've seen a lot of like unsavory stuff that comes from stuff like that, undisclosed paid shows and all that kind of bullshit. But you really need to curate your following account, particularly in the early days, and you need to kind of take a step back and listen to someone who has been in the space a long time, who's got their finger on the pulse of who's alive, who isn't, who's actually legit. Are they just talking a load of nonsense? And it's really, really difficult to figure out. Friendtech took it that next step further. Like, buy my keys, you get access to my private group, effectively. And then you kind of see off the backlash, you've seen like some of the big dogs in the space who just immediately sold. Was that a pricing decision? They probably sat on hundreds of thousands, if not some people came out with like a couple of million. So just be very, very wary of who you are following, particularly in the early days, because most high chances are you're going to beat someone like liquidity.
I think I'd like to add something to that. Might be slightly contrarian, but what's really interesting is when I see something big popping in like Web3 every now and then, you'll see this consistent thread that the next morning you'll see that post that how did I go from 2000 to $2 million in like 30 days? So it's been that consistent loop of that activity happening with like a lot of accounts that do that. And to be honest, I feel, and I can be wrong, just like my personal due diligence, that a lot of my friends have like sent me that post that, hey, I just saw someone do like a 2000 to 2 mil journey in crypto. Is that for real, for real? So I think from an onboarding hook perspective as a marketeer, I get how that works, because a lot of crypto is that big idea of, to make it all back in like one cycle, and like without gambling a lot of it, and like how it's like pumping like crazy, ha ha ha. But like, I think I would love to ask Grant, like, we are talking about this on like who to follow. Somehow I've struggled with this the most. Like, whenever I tell my friends that, hey, you're new to space, follow A, B, C, D, E. But I think everyone has like a different list. There's no de facto person that we want to vouch for, that, hey, just go ahead and follow this guy and he's going to be like the best actor for like the next two cycles. We see like names crash and burn. Let's take the example of Bitboy for some moments, or like some of the other people from the ecosystem who got like convicted lately. So I think I would love to ask you, like, if we have to say, let's say, bring someone into crypto, right? Who are like three names you'll recommend for them to just, get the right information? So I think I would love to understand that.
Yeah, and you're right. It changes. It really, really does change, and quite quickly. Because I think a lot of it's very strange, because a lot of like the OGs in the space who are sat on extremely large amounts of money, they were like early Bitcoin, early Ethereum. The way that they participate in markets is not the way that you should participate in markets if you're in like entry level participant. That just doesn't make any sense
Exactly.
whatsoever. Like their risk profile, they're probably just happy to take 3 or 4 trades a year at size, and you're done. Or at least that's what I'd like to think I would be doing if I was sat on 9 figures. and in this hypothetical situation, you're not in 9 figures. You've probably got 3 figures, 4 figures, 5 figures,
Yeah.
whatever you've been blessed with to start entering
Grant
into
called
the
me poor
market.
in 7 different languages. Like, he just said 9 figures. I was hoping for 7, 8 if I'm lucky. Bro just went.
It's like nine
Yeah.
figures is just
We're
good,
all we're all
I would
we're all
say.
gonna get there. Don't worry about that. So yeah, I think, and what I've kind of tended to see, and I've had a couple of conversations with people about this, is when you do your larger wallets do get to those kind of levels, the landscape totally changes. So you kind of want that base of understanding. So like
Yeah.
the likes of, I don't know, your Hasakas, your Cantor and Clarks of the world. That's, I think Ryan, like Cantor and Clark, like the floor horse. He's so down to earth and so legit. Like absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
he's like on wizard mode. In like, I just would kind of if you kind of focused on TA and particularly like order flow, like he's the guy in my opinion. I think he's really, really, really good. Hasaka just seems to call absolutely everything. I don't know how he does it. Can also move markets, and obviously Ansem's had an excellent run. He was great last cycle. He's been great this cycle, but I think where the real alpha is finding those. And this is obviously a couple of steps further in the journey of kind of curating your follower list, but you need to find those kind of sub 5k, sub 10k accounts that are absolutely killing it, and
Exactly.
they're really hungry and really aggressive about it, because they're starving to win. If that makes sense, like a lot of big dogs in the space they've done it. They can kind of rest on their laurels. They're not hungry. They're not kind of pushing onto the frontier of like what's happening next. They can ease off the gas, but it's finding these like really hungry accounts that are early to absolutely everything, and just kind of watching their follower account just blow up, and trying to spot them early. And like that kind of ties back to your friend tech question as well, because that's kind of a way to speculate on that. If you see someone who's absolutely smashing, absolutely killing it, and
Yeah.
is like destroying the markets, and you can kind of bet on their trajectory, I think that's really interesting. But you need a strong base of like those accounts that I mentioned previously, but then you'll start to pick up on these smaller accounts, which I think is like super important to get real alpha.
Yeah. I think I'd love to ask like one question on top of this, which is like, there's this cyclic nature in Web3 that the attention span to each activity is so low that it kind of fades off, right? Like, let's talk about sectors in particular, right? So if you see the Q1 reports, you'll see like meme coins have pumped the most. They took like most of the mind share for Q1, followed by, I think, RWAs and AI. So think about it this way, that I started trading on Frentech, bought a lot of keys. But I think the largest part of like my journey in Web3 has been when to exit, because I don't know when it's like not relevant anymore. Like today it's relevant, tomorrow my keys are like worth 4 cents. Because I'll give you like a very funny example from our own team. So when CC got convicted, there was like a shitcoin that launched called 4 on
Of
Solana.
course. Of course.
And it got like huge ass green candles for like the longest time. And I think I was talking to some of my team members yesterday, and they tell me, like, I just asked them, like, what happened to 4? And he's like, yeah, man, it 3x, but now it's worth only few cents. So should have sold back then. And like, to time that exit of interest from any activity in Web3 is something I would say as a pleb I struggle with. Even if I made money, I didn't know how to realize it. So like even like Adonis and I've been talking to him for the longest time that if we don't exit at the right time in this market, it's going to be all a waste, because a lot of it actually depends on us exiting the market, right? So I would love to get your take on exits primarily, and the mindshare shift which happens to any activity. It happened to points, it happened to meme coins twice. So Pepe was all the huge wave, and then it came down, then it came back again with WIF and the Solana frenzy. How do you see timings in market?
Yeah, timings in market's a funny one because, and I'm seeing this now where there's two aspects of this. So what I'm seeing now from friends and close family who I feel like they've came into the market and they've hit a couple of wins and they've cracked it. And I did the same thing, like 2017, thought I was an absolute genius. And then you get your ass handed to you and then you lose it. And I always just say, look, it's very, very, very easy to make money in an uptrend, particularly with everything that's going on now.
Yeah.
It's very, very hard to keep it if you
Yeah.
don't have that kind of muscle memory of how to sell. With regards to like how I kind of think about it is, and there's like there's a lot of schools of thought around this, but it's just all you're doing is you're trading like the attention economy. That's all it is. You're trading relevancy. You're trading potential upcoming catalysts. You're trading speculation, and like uncertainty is the killer of all speculation. So what we've kind of seen over the past couple of weeks was when there was kind of conflicts happening and like funny things going on with JPY, and like there was just all this kind of uncertainty, and that kills any speculation whatsoever. So when I see speculation, I'm just like, right, fuck this. I'm flat out. I'll just take everything I can off the table. I'll keep long-term positions like majors in this time around Sol, and managed to pick Sol up like in the early teens. So I was just like, why would I fumble a generational entry? Because there's a little bit of turbulence happening. With regard to sector specific, so we obviously had like base kind of happening, kind of rotation.
Yeah.
Again, it's all attention, and people need to understand that you can't force a narrative. Price will precede a narrative. Like
Yeah.
price will drive fundamentals, and then people retrofit the fundamentals to suit the price. And it's not the other way around. It's
Bro, can you tell that to a couple of people in my DMs by any chance?
yeah, people get
Meanwhile,
caught up on that.
we're like literally trying to like reverse engineer a lot of that sometimes, where we're like, let's try again. I know it doesn't work, but let's try again. So I mean, it's part of
relevance,
the growth.
yeah, relevancy, attention. Maybe like if you think about what's a good example? There's probably two good examples of what happened in Solana meme coin space, which are large enough market cap that I'm going to have absolutely no effect talking about them. So if you think about WIF, the whole putting WIF on the sphere, great to raise the money, but don't go and do it now.
Yeah.
Go and do it at the end of the cycle, because that is like an event. It's like Elon going on Saturday Night Live for Doge.
Yeah.
That is your top signal. That's when you exit.
Yeah.
WIF going on the sphere is Elon going on Saturday Night Live, and like I'll die on that hill. Bowden and maybe Trump, like the Ethereum one.
Yeah.
Election, November. If
Yeah.
something's far enough out that it has a lot of time to like build towards this kind of cataclysmic event, it's really good. And if it can pick up traction earlier, even better, which some of these have done. But usually there is this kind of turning point that kind of triggers it. If it's that's kind of how I play it. Sometimes I kind of sell too early, sell too late on these kind of things, but usually around big events. And if you can kind of spot an event on the horizon that you might want to sell into, usually works, but like nothing's kind of certain in the space.
I think absolutely, and I think you gave such a good mental model in terms of speculation and events, because I feel uh, totally invested by the same methodology. So a lot of what I do, and like allow me to shill my bags, and by saying like not financial advice there. So Bitcoin Pizza Day is coming, and I don't know if you guys have been involved in the BRC ecosystem, runes, ordinal, some of the other stuff. But I bought a lot of pizza a while back, and I've just been sitting at it that will it pump or not. Like I think I bought it like 4 months ago, thinking that okay, on the pizza day I'm gonna sell it. So yeah, I think this is like a very good model for any newbie who's entering in the market, because I think a lot of the commentary on CT is like a bit lagging to what's happening in the actual market. So when you see that post that hey, I just went to 30 million because of this, it's probably too late to make it to 30 million. So you have to hunt that alpha. So I think I just reiterate the points Grant said, that start with some of the big names who have like good repo, then go down to like hunting the small cap alpha people who are like KOLs primarily. I think as for us, Radar has been working with a lot of them. But I think I can see Adonis flinching with his eyes that Blingo is talking a lot and he's not letting me ask my future questions. So I let him speak that, to be honest. But yeah.
Yeah, that's how you know a good co-founder. But
Yeah.
I actually just wanted to follow up on the meme coins one because I have been a meme coin bull this entire cycle.
Oh,
So I
wow.
think my thought process matches that with a lot of retail, which now, as I say it out loud, perhaps is not a very good sign for my future. But
It's got it's called a
it's
left
either
curve
like
podcast, isn't
yeah, it's
it?
either like invest in like really safe assets, safe being like your Ethereums and Bitcoins of the world, or really risky ones. Because one thing that we are noticing, at least in this cycle, is that people who are new, or at least friends who are coming into it now, they've got a taste of it or they've seen it happen in 2021, and they want the peak mania now. So they don't want a 3x and they don't want a 5x. They either happy with like a 2x or like something that increases their money by 100%. So it's a 100% game or it's a 100x game. There's no in betweens right now. There are people who are already rich and they want to invest simply to hedge against inflation, make good money, playing it safe, really not into degening at all. On the other side of things, there are people who are not at all happy with the 10x or 20x or 30x. They want the 100x and they will not quit. It's almost as if they have an pent up demand and that's what they want to do. And that actually goes back to your idea of selling, because they have like an arbitrary number in their head that they are chasing. So do you think this cycle we'll see like a large number of people simply going for the memes without ever getting involved in like DeFi and really infra specific applications, and they will just simply come via BTC or ETH and revolve straight into the meme coins?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of powers at play here that are causing this as well. And I think one, you're starting to hear anecdotal evidence of like large betting firms losing a lot of market share and a mind share to the shitcoin casino. Two, I think people worldwide are really struggling, and I think a roll of the dice on something they perceive to have a little bit more of a fair chance in again the shitcoin casino. I think that's happening. I don't think people like in our little echo chamber, we're very fortunate to be in a position where sometimes things like that don't necessarily affect us as much. But just hearing like anecdotal evidence from like friends and family back home, I know for a fact that's a thing. I think onboarding experience, particularly with the likes of mobile wallets like Phantom and even MetaMask, have begun to step their game up. But I think Phantom and the inbuilt like white labeling of the likes of Jupiter and God forbid you ever have to use Radium, but yeah, Radium and even Pumped Up Fun. I think stuff like that, just like ease of onboarding, is very very easy to understand. Like I wrote in the thesis at the beginning of the year, this is meme coins are to this cycle what NFTs were to last. It's like the NFTs without a collection. It's just like one picture. And I think people are completely just, again, swinging for the fences, or they're going to be like a long-term investor. And it's kind of annoying a lot of people who are investing in infra or like wondering when DeFi is going to bounce again. But you kind of just got to go go where the attention is. Again, as we were just saying, you're trading an attention economy at the end of the day. So you can't just like poo-poo these ideas around it. And you're seeing a lot of kind of VCs that are getting really, really pissed off with this whole idea because, well, a lot of their edge is eroded with stuff that's coming onto the market. It's not as fair launch as some stuff that came from previous cycles and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's a very, very, very easy onboarding tool and makes a lot of sense. You just buying a picture and the chart goes up and down, as opposed to you're investing in this onion layer of DeFi or this kind of modular piece of the stack that it's just like, what does that even mean?
Yeah. And I think what I've seen is like, and allow me to speculate because I love it and I'm totally fine with being wrong. So what I'm seeing is now there's like layers to it. So there you have your Pepes and Whiffs, which will get like mainstream adoption and they will be the main price movers perhaps. Again, not financial advice, but like just trying to think of like who will be the chart breakers of this cycle. That's one part. Then you see like meme coins as a strategic marketing tool to like activate your ecosystems. I think we're getting there as well, where we're seeing like a lot of ecosystems trying to whitelist your meme coins because now DeFi is thinking, what should I do next? I can either launch a meme coin or build meme coin utility, right? So you'll see a lot of perps allowing you to stake your meme coins, do a lot of that. So the risk parameters are going down, which is not the best idea, but at least I'm happy for the utility that we're bringing to these meme coins. Like, I feel that as we progress and if this trend kind of keeps on going, we'll see that meme coins are like more of a strategic layer to activate ecosystems and onboard new users to that ecosystem. So I think that's a good thing because I'm fine with having like some utility beyond just price pumping. At least if anyone else can build the utility for it, if you're a DeFi protocol, I'm talking to a lot of them that are doing this. I think kudos to you guys because you have to adapt to the market and at the same time don't mess up your risk infrastructure, right? I understand you don't want an isolated market to blow up. So just from that perspective, I think it's an interesting shift because now we're just seeing meme. First, we used to see them as memes and like gambling. Now it's getting more intricate as we see it like an ecosystem activator and a strategy to like gain mainstream adoption. And I think that's perfectly fine. So to take that meme coin beyond the hype, I think like I used to read this white paper from Wharton which said like DeFi beyond the hype. So now we have to see like what's next for meme coins beyond the hype, and like what's next to like onboarding new people to your ecosystem. So I think we're doing a lot of funny stuff on that part, and Grant will let you in on alpha there. So yeah, but funny things are coming from our side.
Love it.
If you if you think about it, Grant, you raised 2 points. One was the actually, Grant, you basically raised the idea of onboarding, and Lingo mentioned that, how can meme coins be more? There are two chains right now that I think exemplify one of each. Both of them super hot. One is Solana, the other one is
Yes.
Base. So if you look at Solana and you mentioned Phantom Wallet, you wouldn't believe how easy it was for me to buy GeoBird. It was the easiest meme coin I have ever purchased because all I had to do was load up Phantom and it was already there as a suggestion.
Mhm.
Easiest purchase ever. And I just said to myself, if this is how these purchases could look like, then you know, well, screw me, man. I think it's going to be
Yeah.
very easy for me to onboard a lot of my friends. On the other hand, in terms of being more than a meme coin, I think Base did a really good job of like supporting Degen with like their own L3. And now I think a lot of these meme coins, Toshi being one of them, is going to develop their own launch pads, for example. So in order to participate in the launch pads, you need to have Toshi, you need to stake them together, very similar to like the whole BNB playbook at the end of the day. So those are like two notable moments in which I think that meme coins are expanding their capability. But yeah, Grant, I think that I also wanted to like steer away from the meme coins as well, considering that we have it's pretty apparent that the podcast was aptly named the left curve because of how much we were talking about meme coins, but you've been like one of the most well-known podcasters that we have known, and you've interviewed hundreds, if not thousands, of people at this point of time. You've made mistakes, you have done things right, you've gotten lucky, and you've been drugged, and you have survived through everything. Whether it be the FTX crash, or whether it be ETH touching all-time high. So it's been like a momentous journey. If I ask you to like reflect back on your journey, some lessons that you have learned along the way, as a podcaster, and perhaps more so as an enthusiast of the space altogether as well. So what would you say?
Yeah, on the podcast side, it's really interesting. I think you just and we're kind of going through this like internal battle with this at the minute, because for a podcast to grow, particularly in the crypto space, you can play the YouTube game of looking like a complete fool on a thumbnail and playing the whole 1000x meme boy, moon boy game. And you don't get me wrong, you're gonna get your click through rate and you're gonna get engagement, and you're gonna get returning people, even if you're just loading up a chart and talking absolute nonsense for 20 minutes. That works. If you want to kind of look yourself in the mirror and be able to sleep at night, it's a lot harder of a battle to grind. So what experience is taken from that is just speak to people that you enjoy speaking to, because if you make it a task, you're never going to want to do it. Do shit that you're interested in, and hopefully that kind of resonates with a lot of people, and don't just kind of try and I know people who reverse engineer the algorithm, right? There's a lot of tools you can use on YouTube and Spotify and stuff like that, and see what's got high search volume, and what will people be searching for today. So we're going to curate content around that. That is more of a job and soul destroying for me. I just like doing shit for the sake of it, and like speaking to the likes of you guys, and doing all this kind of stuff. So do what you like. People will eventually find you, and it's going to be a lot longer of a slog to doing that. But
Yeah.
again, you'll be able to look yourself in the mirror and be able to sleep at night in doing so.
Yeah.
Market participant side, if someone was coming in for the first time, it's just like, be ready to get your dopamine receptors completely fried. And there are like downstream effects of that. I was laughing with Mike, one of like our CEO today, and I was saying I lost like the equivalent of $20 on the beach when I was walking my dogs, and I was distraught because it was like $20 real money. I was like, I've just got that out of the ATM. And then I say we're going to play in the shitcoin arenas and just be losing like X amount of money, and I won't feel anything. So that kind of thing happens. Similar to the like, I suppose it's a point that kind of rounds up all the talking points of what we've been speaking about is you've got to go where the attention is, or you'll drive yourself insane. Like these markets come in ebbs and cycles, and if you are bound to this specific thesis and it's not playing out, and attention is driven to a specific sector, and you miss a whole cycle because you've just been completely bag holding this thing because you've watched a BitBoy video or something on YouTube, then you've only got yourself to blame, in my opinion. But you've got to kind of be curious. You've got to go and try new shit out. You will stumble upon gems by just being very, very curious and just trying shit out all the time. And you also need to find a good little group of people that you can kind of bounce ideas off. They'll tell you when you're stupid. They'll tell you they're going to dump on your head. Just like a lot of gallows humor when markets are down. So those kind of things. Just be really, really curious. Find a really good group, and be careful where you get your information and content from.
Yeah, I think that was a great explanation. I think from our side, what we've been trying to do is like just try to create that kind of content funnel that we want to learn from. So let's say we're here trying to make you talk about the things that we feel are like mutually important, right? And require like some attention from the side. So I think that part is really interesting, and I think that is what we want to build towards. I absolutely resonate with the point where you said about the market pumping and a lot of speculative growth marketing that people do on YouTube side. So I think it's a long journey for us, but I think for me it's more about enjoying this candid conversation with you, at the same time having this in my head that I can't digress a lot. So, so it's equally a good mix of productive and a conversation that is like something we'll cherish after like many cycles. So I think it's super interesting. But Adonis is giving me those eyes again. So
No, I'm not. I was just about to say that. I was
no.
just
I'm just
about to say
messing with you all.
Actually, if you think about it, Grant, what you just said about creating content for the soul, that's exactly why we started this podcast as well, because we realized that a lot of people, they learn to use phrases, but they never actually understand what those phrases mean and why does it matter. Like impermanent loss is a very good example, right?
Mm.
Or if you go about it, intersubjective universal joke is a very good example of it, right? And so we see so many phrases being dropped, but few people understand, because the moment you understand it is also the moment you understand that this does not actually solve any of the major pain points that exist for my grandma or my friend to onboard into Web3. So why am I so hyped about it? The hype dies when you understand something that well. And I think that is what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring people onto the show that can explain those difficult concepts, that can explain those things. And like, we call ourselves the left curve because we want to cut off the learning curve for a lot of these new people who are entering into the markets as well. So this is a question I ask everyone who's on the show, but who is one Web3 chart you would want us to bring on to the Left Curve podcast?
Left Curve podcast. So there are a couple that I think could be quite good, and this is let me just make sure I got the handle right. But so this is like
Bro's gonna look them up right now.
so this guy.
GYOR.
So this guy is when I was saying about like these guys who are flying under the radar, they're always early. You join a Telegram, they're there. You're buying like the wackiest new runes collection that just came out, and you thought you only knew about it.
Yeah.
They're there. They're always there. So there's a guy called. He will have absolutely no idea that I'm recommending him for this, by the way. So he's called Agony Beard,
Okay.
like AGONY Beard, and I don't know if it's just a bit of confirmation bias for me, but like he always seems to be in the same positions and bags as me. So I really like he's
I love it.
always kind of in the same kind of areas of the industry as me. So hopefully I'm doing something right, or we're both doing something extremely wrong. So I think you're gonna see this account slowly blow up, because he seems to be absolutely nailing it, and he's also got a Bitcoin puppet as his profile picture, so he's absolutely smashed it in my opinion.
Nice. And I think I'd love for this to like transition into the small shill zone, which is like as we progress towards the end, I would love to understand, what's coming up for Blockmates and what is something we should look out for.
Yeah, so recently we're doing a slow rollout of I say all of our content's been completely free, like for the past what year is it? For the past nearly 4 years now.
Yeah.
So we do some like sponsored and advertising, just borrow media stuff to kind of keep lights on. But now we're pushing into because we've got a lot of research behind closed doors. We've got like a really strong research team. As I say, we're participant in the markets primarily all day, every day. So actually not just larping on and creating threads about like what the industry's doing, like getting our hands dirty and getting completely destroyed at times, and then making some really great gains at times as well, just like everyone is. So that research is going to be behind paywall subscription service. So the way we're positioning it is like Mazari for complete degenerates.
Okay.
And I suppose it kind of fits quite well with the audience that will be listening to this, because everything we've ever done, from me initially writing, just onboarding blogs, it's always been in a tone that is lighthearted, entertaining. There should be a very, very low barrier to entry. If there's a difficult topic, it should get explained right down to first principles and like anecdotally, so everyone can kind of understand it. So we're doing that, pushing into this kind of more subscription service with it's called the meal deal.
Oh, wow.
We didn't want to call it like Blockmates Premium or some PS. We want to call it the meal deal. So that's coming out soon. There was 420 LOPs, which is like the lifetime access to research pass that minted out. So they've had access to it for the past 6 weeks, and now subscriptions for the public are gone live. What day is it? 6th of May next week. So
Oh
people will be
wow.
able to pick that up next week as well.
Yeah, I just hear that it's Misari for the left curve. So,
Exactly.
so I think we're already very interested in it, and like I think we should start chilling it in every episode. It's like, hey, take my
Take my
money.
money.
Yeah, I think that should be our motto from here. But I think we'd love to partner with you guys in like more deeper synergies. I think this has been a good start. But
Amazing.
yeah, it was awesome having you. Such a great conversation. I think I enjoyed so much. It's actually refreshing.
Yeah,
So
let's get
yeah,
it's flip it on its head. And you guys come on our podcast, tell us all about what you guys are doing, and go through some
absolutely.
of the portfolio companies and stuff like that. It'd be great.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure,
that'd be
man. That
great.
would be great. I think this conversation has been like fairly nice. We touched upon everything from like layer zero to friend.tech to meme coin mania to how to sell at the right time. I love that example so much of like muscle memory. So even if you're taking profits, take like $10 worth of profit. So at least you know what it looks like after you've sold, right? Most people they never end up selling. So I think those were great examples. Then we, went to Grant's recommendations for the show as well. So we will definitely outreach to some of those guests that as well. And if you love the show, of course, please do give us a follow at Radar Block and our individual accounts. As my name suggests, is Cyrix Adonis Cyril and Blingo No. Now I see Blingo, you've still not put your Twitter username in your name yet, but that's all right. And make sure you follow our guest Grant as well at his handle, which is at Blockmates. That's all for this one, gents. Thank you so much. Peace.